Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk with a wonderful dentist from Mexico who will tell us about his journey into UCLA residency program. I think his perspective is very interesting because he is pursuing a residency program and he does not want to receive a license in the United States. He's actually planning to go back home to his country, but he's going to share his experience with application process into American residency programs. And he's also going to tell about his interview and bench test. So if you're interested in that, if you're applying to a residency program, I think this video is going to be super helpful for you. So if you would like to get his experience, please keep on watching.
All right, well, let's get started. So I received the messages and you saw I posted them on Instagram. People want to know how the interview process is going because that's kind of like the most stressful part, because when you go into the college, most countries don't even have interviews in their curriculum. So they kind of like, what is that? What do you do? Like, what do you say? How does that go through? So I just was wondering if you could share your experience. But first, I was wondering if you could introduce yourself a little bit, maybe, so they kind of get to know you a little more.
Yes, of course. Well, I am Efrain, so I am from Mexico. I have practiced dentistry in Mexico for about 8 years. I am a generally dentist. So I was working in a tourist area where, like Puerto Vallarta, where I was pretty much working with people from the United States and Canada. And then I decided to move to the US. It was going to be about 2 years ago. And this coming September is going to be 2 years since I moved from Mexico. So the plan at the beginning, it was to get into the advanced STEM program, but I was wondering if I could get into something like a residency or something that I didn't want to get the same degree as a general dentistry because, I am from Mexico and the country is too close. Anyhow, so then I got accepted into in UCLA in a postdoctoral program, which is for restorative dentistry, something that I was working a lot in a touristic place where I was living. So I was thinking, I'm thinking that it is a good opportunity for me to be getting this training in the US and go back to my country and practice and do restorative dentistry for people who travel down there to get fast treatment or dental treatment for cheaper prices, but a good quality as it's in the US. So yeah, that's me. So I don't know what else I can say here, but yeah, that's me. So I got accepted this last March. I got accepted into UCLA. The process, it was very stressful because I was the same boat like I think everyone else. I didn't know what to prepare. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to say. And I was very nervous. It was my first time applying to a program. It was very intimidating. So what I did is just to follow some the instructions that people said in YouTube or the other people who has a experience who going through the interviews like this. That's what I would like to share my experience, because I think most people, even one person, will get something from this, because if we don't share our experience or knowledge, then we are not transmitting what we learn from other people who has went through the same experience. So so what I did is just to follow those instructions or those tips from people who was sharing their ideas or their experience in YouTube. And the interview day was, I think it was very good for me. It was very easy. I was very excited, the day, like if you're waiting for that so much. And
Yeah, and you finally go to school and it's all like so polished and nice. It's really cool to see. I know, it's so exciting.
Yeah, so I remember that I was very early. They said to us that we needed to be there at 8 a.m. So I remember I was 7:30 a.m. and I was already at the school.
Yeah,
Nobody was
me
there.
too. I know.
Nobody was there. And I was just thinking since the very beginning that everyone said in videos, or everyone it was when shared their experience, like the interview day starts when you get into the school. When you drop out from your car, from the Uber, from wherever you are getting there, however you are getting there, the interview start there. So for me, it was just me, and then it was another doctor from, I think he was from Iran, and then we start chatting. And immediately after, we realized that it was another doctor there, and he was watching to us. And it was one of the directors of a program, a different program.
Oh. So
And
you're talking there and they're sitting there watching you like behind the corner. That's what I'm imagining. Like kind of peeking out. What are you guys talking about?
yes, not that way, but they were, I think they were just yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's true. It starts right when you step in the door. Like be prepared, like picture ready face, good attire, like don't say anything bad to anybody, just polite, and because you never know who's listening.
Yes. And so for me, I was thinking like, okay, I'm not going to be more than I am not, because I sometimes very shy at the beginning, because it's hard for me just to expose myself immediately. So I have to see how to read the room, how it is. So after, when I start to see more people coming in, I start to realize that everyone was scared. Everyone is nervous. Everyone is afraid of that day. Everyone is like aware that this is a huge opportunity if you want to get into the program. Like, you are almost there, but this is the final step that you have to perform very well.
Yeah.
So the process for us is, after we are invited to the interview, they tell us what we are going to be asked. Like, if we are going to have, we had an exam very similar to the IMBDE. So I had to pass my IMBDE in December, so I didn't really have to prepare too much, because it was like 2 months after. And we also have a bench test, and then we have the interview. So they give to us 3 hours for the three things. And the first hour, I have finished my bench test and my knowledge test. So for me, I have an extra hour to go to where the breakfast is. You know, they have this I don't know how to say, continental, or how
Yeah.
is it called?
Snack table, whatever.
Yes. So and then so I have finished very early, and it was me and another doctor, and she was, and this is a good example to compare. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else, but I remember that she has finished at the same time like me, and I asked her score, and she performed very well, way better than me. But I have noticed that she was, since the very beginning, a little bit more aggressive negatively with the questions, or the way she was talking to everyone else. And I was more neutral. And from the room where I was doing my exam to the room where the director of the program is, so I got lost. And then another doctor who was about to interview me later, she let me know how to get into where the director was. And that plays a huge point for me, because I had the opportunity to chat with her, and she interviewed me later. So she knew a little bit more about me. She recognized
Now
me
it's
later.
not going to be like your first meeting. Now you met like in this casual environment when you were walking down the hall, and not like, the desk area where they interview you. So that's actually very good.
Yeah, so I was very nervous, and I remember she said, "Oh, don't worry, it's LA, and everyone get lost the first time wherever you go." And said, "Okay, that helps me a lot, because I knew who she was, and that's very intimidated that day as well." So I was like, "Oh my God, now I am lost, and probably it's going to play against me," but it was totally the opposite. So since I had 1 hour, full hour, I was with the director talking with him. We were talking about everything. So that's what I said. There is not something specific that you have to be prepared. They are seeing the whole package on you. Like, they are not seeing only your GPA, your experience, they are seeing how you are, at least in my experience, this is what I'm saying. So they are seeing pretty much if you are good to communicate in a professional manner, and they want to know if you have like this ability to be empathetic, if you have the ability to lead, if you have the ability to to stay humble, to help others. They want to know if you are hungry to learn, if you are okay to be again at the school, if you are okay getting into a new culture, to be exposed with new cultures all around yourself. And I remember we were talking about the next, not the next, well, how is going to be the next, but we were talking about what it could be the next world, like in case that happened. So I was saying like probably because of water and all random things. And I remember the other doctor who finished at the same time like me, she was more negative and saying things against the age when people apply when you are older, and she was complaining about that. She was complaining about that the director of the program doesn't allow students to meet before they apply to school. So I think that's why it is very important to be more neutral and the questions, the way that you are communicated with them, because if you are too aggressive, too negative, that can play against you, because they probably they want to pick you because they have to spend the next 2 years with you. So it's like, I don't want to be with this person that is so aggressive and so negative. So end of that story is she was not accepted, unfortunately. And thinking about my scores, I did not perform bad in my scores, but I performed like 2 points less than her and I was accepted. And so we have to wait an hour until everyone else finished the rest of the test. And then since my last name is start with A, so I needed to be the first one than everyone else. And that was good for me because I didn't want to wait like 20 doctors and then be the last one,
Yeah, no, me neither.
It's
That's
just
horrible. I just want to go first.
Yes, so I was the first one. It was really good. I remember that it was 3 people who interviewed me. It was 2 of the professors and then the director. He was the last one. I really did not have anything prepared than just having a story about who I am and just to remember what I write down in my application and my SOP, and very much that's was my preparation. I remember seeing some doctors just reading their computers right before they go to the interview. They were reading some like kind of like a script to know what they are going to say. And for me, I don't know how they performed. I don't know if they were accepted or not, but for me, that's just like being so robotic. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
how.
you sound too rehearsed. Like it sounds like you memorized like a poem or a book or something, and you're just rehearsing it like a play. And even though you're saying really good things, it never sounds natural. Like you sound fake. So you just can't connect to that kind of person because it's rehearsed. Like, what do you actually think? You don't know if you wrote it or somebody else wrote this speech for you. You just actually a really good point. I talk about it a lot. Just be yourself, even though like you're preparing. Of course, you will prepare. Like you want to know who you are, but never memorize. Like just
Yes.
talking points, like I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that, but never exact, text. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
maybe we'll have like a foundation of things that you're always going to say, because this is how I call it. It's just your narrative. This is your narrative about how you are sharing your story, your life, your movie, I'll say, like if you want to find like a more example and to say it. And I didn't do prepare that way. I share just my story the same way I have learned to share in a positive, in a good manner, to self myself, I'll say, to introduce myself in a nice way, because we all have something negative, something positive, like, but it is better just to be more positive and neutral than being negative. and
Yeah.
and so my the other students, the residents, the first and the second year, they take me to the first room for my interview. And the first question from one of the doctor was like, okay, I already know everything about you from your career. I have read your curriculum. So tell me something about you that is not here. Just tell me about yourself. And I remember hearing that question so many times in videos, probably at one of your videos, because I have watched your videos before I went there too.
Yeah.
So thank
Tell
you
me
for
about
that.
yourself. That's like everyone's favorite question.
Yeah, so what I started doing is just saying where I was born, where I am coming from, where my family is from, saying how was my childhood, how I was cross path with dentistry, how I was when I was growing up, how was my personality, and when I was a kid, and then how it was when I went to dental school, and how after was practice, how I was when I was practicing dentistry, what encouraged me to do more in dentistry. And it was very simple, very easy, just saying about myself. I'm not saying that I am too much, but I'm just saying like just being myself. I did not say anything that I was not. And I think the doctor liked it, and because at the end of the question, when I answered, he said, well, uh, it's clearly that you can speak. It's clearly that you can communicate. And then he told to the other doctor, do you have any other question for him? We are almost running out of time because they give to us 15 minutes. So I don't know how long I was talking. I was just like nonstop. So, and then the other doctor, she asked me, what do you like about dentistry? What, like, do you like orthodontics? Do you like surgery? What do you like? And I remember answering like what I do. No, she asked me like, what do you like? And then I answered what I did not like it. And then when I was talking, I realized that I was answering quite the opposite. And I
Yeah.
immediately go back to say, well, I remember enjoying surgery. That's the way I start to answer, because I was very nervous. I was feeling like my heart was here in my neck because I was super nervous. And then she said, okay, that's good. So don't worry if you feel like you are being judged. This is a restorative program, but if you like something else, it's okay. We just want to know about you. And I said, well, I like also surgery, but I also like restorative, and I like the combination of both. So my goal is to, at one point, to do implants or surgery, and at the same time do a whole rehabilitation. That's what I want to be in this program. And she was about to ask me one more question, but the doctor said, we are running out of time, so he has to go to the next room. So
Well,
then
that's
they,
good. They want to know more. They want to talk to you. Like they want to find out more. That's great.
yes, it's great actually. When you are running out of time and they have more questions about you, it's great. But at that time I didn't know. I was just nervous. I was like, oh my God, I made a mistake, and I was just quiet until they told me what to do the next thing. And then they told me, um, see, it's very easy. You don't have to be nervous. You only have to share who you are. We just want to know who you are.
Yeah.
You and that's the next thing that they say is, you have to know that we already want you. We only want to see, or we only need to see who you are in order to be, to know if you are going to be accepted or not. So then the residents take me to the next room where the director of the program, Dr. Lee, was. And Dr. Lee started, he was very chill, very relaxed, and he started asking me the same question, like, tell me about yourself. And I answered and said like, I have just answered that questions, and I don't want to feel like I'm sharing the same answer. And he said, okay, so tell me about and he started asking me questions about my profile, my curriculum. And I did, how do you call it? I forget now the name. Processes, technician processes in Mexico. So I have that career, and I have a specialty on that. And he asked me about it and said like, okay, yes, I have finished that career while I was doing dentistry. And yeah, and I did a specialty in feldspathic porcelain, but I never practiced. So I just put it there because it's knowledge that I have, but I have no experience working. And they appreciate, I think, when you are honest and things like that. when you put something that you have and you don't have the experience, they appreciate you are honest and explain things very easy. You don't have, I believe, you don't have to lie. Like, yeah, I practiced for 5 years when you don't have the experience, because then that can play against you if they are continue asking you questions. So
Yeah, that you don't know who you're talking to. Maybe he also practiced for 5 years and he starts asking you questions about specific machinery, and you're like, actually, I didn't. So if you're caught in a lie, that would be horrible.
yes, yes, that would be horrible, and it's going to play against you. So I was just, again, generally honest, and I was generally enjoying it, because at that point I think I had a boost of confidence, since the residents, when they took me from one room to another, they asked me, um, what do you ask after? Sorry, I forgot this part. After they finished asking me questions in the first round of interview, they say, do you have questions for us? And I was a little bit more prepared for that, because I knew I needed to ask questions. They want to know if you are interested or not in the program. So I had the questions to know, how many patients they expect us to see, how is the day, every day looks like for a student. Those are the two questions I asked them in the very beginning, and so they answer me that, and they like it, I believe. So sorry, I'm going back and forth in the story. And
Okay,
so
don't worry.
so then when I went to Dr. Lee, and I was in the middle of the interview, and Dr. Lee, he was asking me questions about my experience as a dentist in Mexico. And then he said, I think it's a good opportunity for you to be in this program, because then you can practice restorative dentistry in those patients that you were working before, in like the same way that you were practicing in Mexico before. And I remember I said, yes, I agree, because I am not close to any opportunity that is going to make my career more potential for my career. And
Yeah.
and then he asked me questions about how many rooms are in the clinic where you were practicing. And I said, 4. And how many doctors? And I was answering like, how many? And how was your day every day? So I was answering that. And I believe that he was asking me those questions just to know that I was not lying in my curriculum, just to make sure how spontaneous, how genuinely I was answering. And I did not realize at the moment, but then that's my conclusion, because he was asking me questions that are very generic, very simple, that if you are too prepared, if you are with your rehearsal, you will not be able to answer something that is not true, or that you were too prepared to focus on something that is actually true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
it's so funny because just outside of topic in a little bit, because when you immigrate to the US, like when I was getting my green card, that's what they ask you at the interview for the green card. They literally asked me like, so you got, well, like, because I was moving with my husband, and he was like, okay, so what's the color of your chair? What's the color of your couch? Absolutely random questions. But then if you answer it and you're like, I don't know, because they realize, okay, so you don't live with this person. So they find that it's false. And I feel like that's the same technique, because like if you're lying about something, if you say like, oh, I have 5 years of experience, they have no way to check. Like it's not like they're gonna call your office and ask how long have you been working, but then they ask like, what's the name of your best friend at work? And you're like, okay, I'm not prepared for this because you didn't think it through, and you have to come up with it, and you can always see it on your face. That's actually genius. I actually really like that. I think it's really interesting that he went that way. Probably they have a lot of people who actually do lie, I guess. I
yes.
don't know.
Yes, yes, I think it's very genius from the doctor, because since he's the director, I believe he's so experienced about to read people. Like he's been doing this for 20 years and more, and he probably knows like how people or the human being is. Like we tend to lie in some circumstances like that, I believe. And then he asked me if I have questions for him. And I honestly, at that point, since I was talking too much in the first round and then there, I remember not to have more questions. And the first question to come out to me, it was like, what is your ideal candidate? And he laughed about it, like he was like, what is the ideal candidate? He's like, oh, nobody asked me that question before. And then he started answering and he said, well, we are looking for someone who is a full star, someone who has clinical experience, someone who is eager to learn more, and someone who has a good potential career after the person finish here. Let's say someone who is a star, but um, is not is someone who is going to be a star, but is not a star yet because he's coming here to be a star, to be prepared to be a star. What he was saying, like to expose the potential there. And he asked me if I had more questions, and I think at that point I was like, my energy was like gone. I did not have more energy to answer more. I was not how can I say, I had talked too much that my brain was not functioning in that second, and so like, no, I have no more question. So he said, it's okay, you have already performed well, so I also, you are running out of time. So I left the room. And I think I was smiling or something, because as soon as I left the room, the residents were saying like, what is your acceptance letter? And so like, I don't have it. So like, oh, so then you were not accepted. They were playing with me.
Yeah. Oh, that's cruel. That's mean.
And I said like, oh, really? So like, no, we are just kidding, but you are smiling. So it looks like you did well. So like, then everyone started asking me questions like about, what did they ask you? What, like, like when you are in a school, when you have these oral exams, at least in Mexico, this is how we do. Like everyone, one by one, go to the room to talk with the teacher or the professor. And then when you finish the exam, everyone is asking you, what did he ask you? So it was
Yeah.
the same. It was
Yeah.
and I was not selfish about it. I shared to them, so like, just be yourself, just be yourself, just be yourself. Don't pretend that don't be arrogant, and don't pretend you know too much. And I wait for the next 3 hours until everyone finished, because I wanted to know everyone else. I was like thinking like, okay, this was a huge opportunity for me. I don't know if I'm going to be accepted to the program. This is my first try at applying to a school in the US. So I don't know how it's going to be after, if I'm going to be accepted or not. And while I was waiting there, I have noticed that I was the only who speaks Spanish. And I was like, okay, this is going to be something that is going to play in my favor, because I believe they want someone who speaks Spanish, since this is Los Angeles and some of the patients are going to be Spanish speaking. And then the other residents came to talk to me, or I was talking to them, sorry. And they were sharing with me, like, I don't know if this is just my theory, but I believe they are also checking on you. They are also seeing if you are doing great, how you are behaving with the rest of them, how you are talking to them, if you have questions to them. And I was asking them questions as well, questions that I was not able to ask when I was in my interview, because I was too nervous or whatever reason. So I asked them about how many patients they have to see per day, like how many days they have to go to clinic, how are the classes, how is the environment with the professors, what is something that they don't like about the program, how it was for them to apply for a student loan, what they are thinking about after to finish the program, and stuff like that. And I think that has helped me a lot, because that helped me to create a network with the residents or the doctors who are about to finish. And I'm not going to say that now we are close friends, but I already know that if I have a questions about the program, if I have a questions about dentistry, they will be there to help me. So
Yeah.
that's really good.
That
Yeah.
is really good. It's good to know who you're studying with, just in general. Like, it's there's no point of being closed off, because you never know if you do get in. The more people you know, the better. They are upperclassmen, so they've already gone through what you're about to go through, so they're your first source of information. It's always good to make connections with the residents there. And also, I think you were actually correct, because there's no way, and I haven't talked to anybody who participate in admissions. Like, I know some people, but I didn't really ask them if they were actually like spies for the professors, and if their opinion of the applicants actually applied. But that's what I think. I think they do actually collect them all and say, okay,
Yeah.
who's your favorite? Like, what was this guy? What was this guy? Because they gotta know. Like, there must be some way they actually collect the information from them too. So, like, if you are rude to any of them, or if you sound negative to any of them, I think they will find out. So it doesn't matter who you're talking to in the school. You are in the interview. Like, they're watching from, even though it sounds creepy, but it's true.
Yes, it is so true. And they are reading the way you are being, how your body is moving, where you are moving all around. Because I remember myself going, I was too excited. I wanted to know everyone's profile. I wanted to know everyone's struggles. I wanted to know everything about everyone. And this doctor that I was referring before, she was complaining about some people or some applicants' age. She was complaining about the food that we had. She was complaining about um, some traditions from each of us. And I believe it's okay if you don't like it, it's okay. But when you are in a position where you want to be accepted, or when you are selling yourself, those ideas or those behaviors, you have to keep it for yourself. There is no nice to share something like that. If you don't have something nice to say, it's better not to say nothing. And while I was
That's like, sorry to interrupt. When I was like going back to the advice, like be yourself. Well, some people are not that great. It's normal. She was being herself, she was being her perfectly natural self. But sometimes you have to like check yourself before you wreck yourself. Just shut up. Like, if you are, I don't think anybody would tell a person in there, like, if you're friends with somebody, they wouldn't tell you like, okay, you're very negative. Don't do that. But I feel like for people like this, just be quiet, watch first and think later. And I actually do talk to a lot of people, not like that, not super negative. I've never met somebody who would be like complaining about food or anything. But I do meet very arrogant people who are like, especially people who have experience, who know why, they know their worth. Like, oral surgeon, for example, for some reason it's always oral surgeons, by the way, but they just know, and they think they're the best, and they've done so much, and they're like, of course I'm going to get accepted. I'm the best person you've ever talked to. And it's good to have this confidence, but you have to tame it down to be a little more humble, to kind of represent yourself in the best way. So I think that's also a very important point. It doesn't matter if you're actually great. Like, you can be amazing, you can pass all of the tests with 100%, but if you're a really bad person, and really not even just negative, but arrogant, and somebody who's unpleasant to be around, most likely they will go for somebody who, a little bit worse than you. But we can work on that. We're a school, we'll teach them to be better, but
Yeah.
we cannot change a personality of this person. So that's a very good point too.
Yes, it's very, very important. And I think uh, most people struggle in this part of sharing their themselves, because first off, they don't know who they are. And I'm not saying this in a way to be aggressive, but most people, we struggle to, when someone asks us about, tell me something about you, something positive, we are going to struggle to say something positive about us, because at least in my culture, it's hard to describe yourself in something positive, because then you are being arrogant or selfish, and that is not something bad. It's good, because then you are sharing that you have a good that you are smart emotionally, and they also want to know that you emotionally are smart, that you are going to be capable to handle the stress, and that you are going to be able to have the motivation and the discipline along with your emotions, and that you're not going to be crazy and everything. So
Yeah.
the part of this is like, if you want to know how to prepare, if you want to have a base of foundation about what to share, knowing about yourself, having a narrative about yourself, generally honest, is going to be good, because that is going to play more better than bad not knowing about yourself. I don't know if I
Yeah.
explained it, but I think it's a good
Yeah.
point.
No, but that's my question. Like, how do you know? How do you come off at the interview? Again, like being yourself is good, but since as I going back to the previous point, like you may not be a very good person. How do you know? Would you say that it would be a good idea for like to like practice the interview, maybe with somebody who you're not super close friends with, or maybe like somebody who does interview preparations? Like, what do you think about that? Do you think it would help that like negative person if somebody like if she would like met you the day before the interview and you would practice interview together, you would tell her like, look, you're coming off very negative, just settle down, be positive, and kind of adjust your perspective. And I think I think that would be helpful for people like that.
Yes, I think it's going to be it's very important to at least have a conversation with someone who has the experience and someone who doesn't know you, and also with someone who knows you, in order to have a balance about what you're going to say. And and just to make the person or the applicant aware about what is important to share and what is not, because
Yeah.
your personality can play a big role in interview day. As you said, you can have the best scores, the best everything, but if you are not very nice, I think they will rather to pick the one who is probably not the best, but is able to be trained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a school. We come there to learn. It's normal not to know something. That's why like stressing getting every point correctly on the exam is really, there's no point. Of course you want to pass, like, but I feel like the personality test, the conversation, that's what is a decisive factor
Yes.
rather than like test scores.
Yeah, that you said that's something very important. Like having some personality is also very important, and a good personality. Like if you are shy, if you are in trouble, it's good. Just show up to them that you are in trouble, but at the same time that you have this leadership, um, to say something, to tell something, to share your knowledge, even if you're quiet, but you are kind of like leading and sharing something positive. Or if you are super extrovert, also like control your energy, like no
Yeah.
too crazy.
Shut
And
up. Like, shh.
yeah. Yes, but showing up some personality, some good personality is good as well. They want to know who is you and what is your brand going to be representing their school, because at the end is that's what they are going to be, is going to be.
Yeah. And I think when you first talked, you said that you need to feel the room first. And I feel like for people who are more shy, it's actually better than the interviews are longer. Like they last longer. They're not like 15 minutes, but it's a prolonged conversation with like an hour with all of the professors, because they actually get to, they may start shy, but longer it goes, the more professors they move on to, they actually get to open up and get used to the settings, and show your actual personality rather than this like kind of closed off first layer, guarded off.
Yes.
And even though like it does get really tiresome, that's kind of the negative part of this longer interview, is that you start, your brain is like, I can't function anymore, I'm stressed, I'm tired. And I think in that case, when you said like you couldn't remember like what you wanted to ask, I think it's perfectly normal to say like, your professors were so wonderful and they answered all my questions, I have no questions left, so by the time I get to you I have nothing. So I think it's perfectly normal to say like, yeah, it's been a long interview, I have nothing to say. So
Yes, yes.
not in that exact words, but you know.
Yes, yes. I understand. Yeah, it's if you share to them, if you show to them that you are generally what you are saying, I think they understand, because most of us we think that they are like superhumans, like they are like gods, like, oh my God, this is gonna be an
Mm,
interview in the US. It's very intimidating just for being from a country that is very popular. But at the end, we have to remember they are just people like us, that they have just a position, that they are just uh, picking up the candidate, but they understand, they have the same feelings, they have went through the same process. They understand that we are coming from different countries, that everyone is different, everyone will have a very different background, and that just being there, even if you are born and raised in the US, is an intimidating position. They will know, they know. I believe there are people who is very rude and they don't care, but I think it's very little. Most of the
Yeah.
interviewers are very nice, and we have just to relax and cool off a lot. Like, just enjoy it. I will say, like,
Yeah.
just enjoy it, because it's a huge opportunity that you are having, and it's just like a little bit of paying off from your hard work. Everything that you have done, that interview day is saying like you have done so well that you are called to be in an interview. And that is something
Yeah.
that was, for me, it was very exciting, because of like, oh my God, they are calling to me. It's like, yeah, this is UCLA, and I
Yeah,
was
I could
enjoying.
believe it was me. I was like reading that message and like, really, you want to talk to me? Like, there's so many people. Why me? I suck. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's a great like reward. I think interview days are super fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. And at the end, uh, I went to the store and I got my t-shirt. So I don't care if I don't know how being accepted. Just having the interview here is just amazing. Seeing the school, seeing other students walking around, have the picture is just amazing. And 3 days
Mhm.
after my interview, I got an email from the director saying, congratulations, you are being accepted. And I was like, oh my God.
Yay! I knew
Yes.
the outcome. Like, I know you got in, but it's still so exciting to hear that you got the acceptance letter. That's so
Yes.
fun. So
Yes.
all the interviewers, they were American, like they were, American born American, not like from different countries who were also foreign, but then they kind of like got their diplomas transferred, or they were American.
They were American. It was three professors, and the first two are uh one a doctor, is she was uh, from Boston, but she is now a professor at UCLA. She's actually from the same university you are graduated.
Hey.
And the other doctor, he is from UCLA, and the director, he is from Chicago, University of Chicago. So they are all Americans, but they have a lot of experience, and they're very empathetic, knowing that everyone is having different backgrounds. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I would say that um it's very intimidating as well to go to apply, because everyone is applying, everyone is very competitive, and everyone is showing up like, I am this, I have this, I have that. But at the end, um you can be ended up being a better applicant, just uh, putting everything together, being very organized, showing out a lot of discipline, and you can beat someone if you want to beat someone else that has a
Yeah.
lot of experience, or even is more capable to do it. But if you have a lot of discipline and consistency, you will get it there. Everyone is getting there. I don't see many people not getting there, because if they are just going with the discipline and resistance, they will be accepted,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
believe.
sooner or later you will have to be accepted. I mean, I like saying like it's not guaranteed. Like nobody says that if you apply 10 times you will get in. It's not guaranteed. And this you have to do troubleshooting if you don't get in and see like is it your personality? Is it your GPA? Like what is it? So yeah, just kind of work on yourself and just see where it goes.
Yes. um yes, I think I had something to say, but I have just forgotten right now. It's just
I know we were talking for a long time, going back and back, but I do want to ask you another question if you don't mind. I was just wondering if you could tell a little bit more like about the program. So like it's participating in match. It's a match system program, as much as I understood, or is it a pass?
No, is neither of those. I think this is a very different program in from UCLA, or probably in the country, because you have to apply directly to the school.
Ah, okay.
You don't, they have the match and they have the pass programs, but this is a program that you have to apply directly to the school. And the application ends, the deadline is January 15, and
Okay, so
it's,
it's
it's
later.
yes, is they have their own application. It's very, very easy to apply. I'll say you have to have your SOP, you have to have the uh, 3 letters of recommendations, you have to have your curriculum, but they provide you all the forms. So literally what you have to do is just to fill it out, show up who you are, your experience, and just to get the letter of recommendations and make sure the doctor send it to them. Um, and the English as well is they don't ask for a high score, they ask for a 87 is the minimum.
Okay.
and 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 what else, they don't ask for the IMBDE because is if you want to practice after in the US, then you have to have the IMBDE, but to apply to the program you don't have to have it. I
Yeah.
have it because I didn't know what program I will wanted to apply. But since this program was like perfect to me because it's just restorative and it's not the same as the thing I was practicing, so I was like, okay, good. Um, and it's a 2 years program. The first year is just practicing like kind of like the practice that you students or applicants do in the bench stands, like crowns, veneers, and all the classes that you have to prepare, but they are more focused on like you have to master it. For what I know for the other students is like they have how do you say it in your fingers?
Blisters.
Yeah, blisters.
Yeah.
They practice a lot. And for what I know as well, they expose you to get to be a professor assistant because they want to expose to make your teaching skills to be exponential. They are going to make sure you are able to
Yeah.
do research at the school while you are doing the program. And the second year you are in the clinic where you are seeing 1 to 2 patients per day. So
Okay.
it's like a private office. That's the way they describe it. It's just being like in a private office, and where you are just selling the treatment, you are performing a lot of treatments and restorative dentistry. And for what I know as well, uh, is very unique because most people in LA, I can say, is trying to be an actor or someone super famous. So I believe the patients are going to be very special and picky, and it's good for you because then the way you are going to deliver and work is going to be high standard, like in a very specific, you know.
Yeah, that's the student's best friend. Pick a patient. That's
Yeah.
what you want to hear.
Yes. So yeah, after 2 years, you can practice only, as you know, like it's not as a residency, a normal residency, but you can practice in about 5 states. And or you can practice in California in this program that I cannot remember the acronyms now. Like you can work for the government and they pay you back. If you practice for the 3 years, they pay you back 50% of the cost of your program, and you practice for or you work for them for 5 years, they pay full percent of the cost of the program. And that's another thing about the program is not as expensive as the rest of the program. So I'm going to pay 79 for the 2 years.
Oh,
And just to start, uh when you at the beginning, when you pay to keep your seat, you have to pay part of the first or percentage of the first quarter, which it was 19,000. And then um when you are about to start the school, you ended up paying the rest of the money, and they tell you when you are going to pay each payment for each quarter of the
okay.
school. And what
Oh,
else? What else? So the first day of the school, you have to pay for the material, which is about $13,000. And I think it's the total of this, just the school or tuition is about 100,000. So in the total to two
yeah.
years, which is,
Yeah, it's funny how there are a lot of hidden costs. Like you don't know about them until like, oh, you have to pay for the instruments. You just know, oh, okay, you have to. Yeah, that's everywhere. It's like that everywhere.
yes, that's what I heard. And it's just like, okay, this is, I believe that some of the instruments I already have it, but since it's
Yeah.
mandatory, I will need to buy it. So let's see. Let's see how
Yeah,
it
I know.
goes.
It was like that too, even in BU, which are wonderful. And I never say bad things about like those hidden things in BU. They paid for everything. In BU, we didn't have to buy anything, but it was like included in your tuition. So the first year tuition was a little bit higher, and they had to make you buy loops. And I already had loops. I'm like, I don't need anything. And now I have 2 pairs of loops that I'm not even using. But yeah, I wasn't allowed to exclude them because it's mandatory, because you had to buy everything. You couldn't, like, no exceptions. Even if you have it, it's, you have to buy it anyway.
Oh, yeah. Is the dark side of American schools, because mandatory, so you have no option. You have to do it.
Mm. Yeah. And then after you're graduating, try to pack all of that and think about like, I'm just going to throw it away. But then you think how much money you paid for it. And you're like, no, you know what? It's going to sit in my basement for the rest of my life. I'm keeping it. That's my
Yes.
stage now, a year after graduation. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. We've talked for a really long time. I don't mean to exhaust you, but I'm really happy that I talked to you because it was super interesting, because you don't know how many people like apply to schools without a certain like good plan. And I think you're a good example of having this like a career set. You know, I'm coming to the US, I'm going to a non-licensed granting program, even, and but I know that I'm going to go back to my country and practice there. And I feel like a lot of people need to hear this, not just from the interview perspective, but just from your career thought perspective, because a lot of people are applying up from abroad without thinking like, what am I going to do? They don't have a plan. They just apply to advanced standing programs, and they write in their personal statement, I want to go to America because it's the best, without having this good idea of why exactly you want to do that, even
Yeah.
though they have a wonderful career back home that makes them money. And if they thought like you a little bit more, then they would have, you know, made their placement higher to other programs to say that I have this idea of what I want to do. And I think that's you're a wonderful example of that. So thank you very much for sharing your
Thank you.
story.
No, thank you. Yeah, I would like to say more that it's very important that you know what you want for your career. I mean, we cannot predict it, we cannot pick what is going to happen, but the schools or professor, they like it when you know what you want, and when they know you are confident about what your career is going to look like, and that is a good point for you. So one more advice, like you have to know what you want for your career, what you like, what you really want about in dentistry, and how you are seeing yourself after. Not because the dentistry in the US is popular, no, because it's well paid, is not everyone case. And it's not
Yeah.
everyone case that everyone wants to stay here. Like, it's good to know that you have the opportunity to go back to your country and bring back the experience from a first world country, a school in dentistry, or whatever you are being accepted. So it's very, very important to know what do you want for your career. They will like that. They will love
Exactly.
that. Yeah,
They
no,
will love that. I know.
thank you very much for letting me to share my experience. I like to share how my experience was, because you never know who is going to get benefits from this. You never know who is in the same path. You never know who is struggling with a little one word you are saying, and that is going to help someone else just to be accepted or encourage
Yeah.
just day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Solve the problem that they were thinking about was unsolvable, and you can just give them a solution.
you. Yes.
Exactly. That's why I do what I do. That's why we're here.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right. I will let you go. Have a good day. Nice to
Thank
meet you.
you. You too. Nice to meet you too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.